Greeting, we are the group number 9, and we are going to present Commonwealth period or Puritan Interregnum. I'm going to be first with this topic, and I am going to talk about the story about the Puritans. The Puritans were members of a religion reform movement known as Puritanism that arose within the Church of England in the late 16th century. They believed the Church of England was too similar to the Roman Catholic Church and should eliminate some ceremonies, activities, and practices not rooted in the Bible. Puritans feel that they had a direct commitment with God to enact these reforms. Under siege from church and crown, certain group of Puritans migrated to northern English colonies in the New World in the 1620s and the 1630s, and laying the foundation for the religions, intellectual, and social order of New England. Aspects of Puritanism have reverberated throughout American life ever since. Origins. The roots of Puritanism are to be found in the beginnings of the English Reformation. The name Puritans was a term of contempt assigned to the movements by its enemies, although the epithet first emerged in the 1560s. The movement began in the 1530s, when King Henry VIII repudiated papal authority and transforms the Church of Rome into a state of Church of England. To Puritans, the Church of England retained too much of liturgy and ritual of Roman Catholicism. Through the reigns of the Protestant King Edward VI, who introduced the first vernacular prayer books, and the Catholic, who sent some dissenting clergymen to their deaths and others into exile, the Puritan movement, where tolerate or suppress, continued to grow. Some Puritans favor a Presbyterian form of church organization. Others, more radical, began to claim autonomy for individual congregations. Still others well content of remaining within the structure of the national church, but set themselves against Catholic and Episcopal authority. Okay, my partner Vivian will continue with this amazing topic.
So to continue with what my classmate Stacy was saying about the Puritans, so another fact that is so important to say is that it's so interesting how during the reign of the Queen Elizabeth I, an uneasy peace prevailed within English religious life, but the struggle over the tone and purpose of the church continued. Well, many men and women were more and more forced to contend with the dislocation, emotional as well as physical, that accompanied the beginnings of the market economy. Next, please. Well, and another so important thing that we cannot left to say is talk about the writers during that time. And there were so important writers, but today we're going to talk only about 4 of them. And they are John Clay, John Bunyan, William Perkins, and Jonathan Edwards. Well, the first that was John Clay. So this man was born in 1627 and he died in 1691. Well, he was an English Puritan Presbyterian minister and author. Well, also he was a voluminous and popular author. Well, there is a play of fine fancy in some of them, such as the husbandry spiritualized, all display vigorous diction and strong evangelical sentiment. The second writer was John Bunyan. Well, he was born on November 30, in 1628, and he died on August 31st in 1688. Well, he was an English writer and Puritan preacher, best remembered as the author of the Christian allegory, The Pilgrim's Progress. In addition to the Pilgrim Progress, Bunyan wrote nearly 60 titles, many of them expanded sermons. The third one was William Perkins. So Perkins was born in the year of 1558, and he died in 1602. Well, he was an influential English cleric and Cambridge theologian, receiving both a BA and MI from the university in 1581 and 1584, respectively, and also one of the foremost leaders of the Puritan movement in the Church of England during the Elizabethan era. Well, Perkins was a prolific author who penned over 40 works, many of which were published posthumously. In addition to writing, he also served as a fellow at the Christian College and as a lecturer at Andrews Church in Cambridge. And the last one writer, and he was Jonathan Edwards. Well, Jonathan Edwards was born on October 5 in 1703, and he died on March 22nd in 1788. Well, he was an American revivalist preacher, philosopher, and congregational theologian. Edward is widely regarded as one of America's most important and original philosophical theologians. Well, these writers were so important because they play a so important role in not only in church, also in society. And this was a little information about these writers. And now my classmate is going to continue.
Good afternoon. The next topic is about the age of Milton. And the age of Milton, 1625 and 1660, was an age of singular activity in the field of English prose. And as well, the central event of the age, political stronger community in the accession of Charles I, in the establishment of the Commonwealth, exert both a hampering and encouraged influence of the prose writer of the age. Much was written by them in sheer party spirit to promote either of the two conflicting parties, the Puritans and the Calvinists. And the principal feature of the age of Milton is the growth of Puritanism, a moral and social force. Further, this age was remarkable for its production of some very eloquent and compelling sermons of the rank in the language. The age of Milton has been very aptly called the golden age of English pulpit. In the field of moral, social, and political philosophy, the age was enriched by the works of Sir Thomas Browne, John Hales, and Hobbes. Carleton and Fuller wrote distinguished stories, and Isaac Walton composed the quaint work, The Complete Angler, a work of its own kind. And then there was the almighty Milton, who distinguished himself almost and eminently in the field of prose as that of poetry. In a word, the age of Milton was a period of prolific activity in the field of English prose, touching many departments of life. And the next point is about the Baroque style. And as regard prose style, the writers of age of Milton exhibit a curious retrogressive tendency, and every past age in England had in some measure advanced, literature from antiquity to modernity by the age of Milton. Those doesn't seem to have advanced English prose, fraud, extravagance, sorry, and antiquity of the prose of the Elizabethan period towards the ideal of simplicity, comprehensibility, and lucidity associated with the prose of the writers of the age Queen Anne. It was at the end of the age that the restoration writer like Dryden stemmed the retrogressive tide and further the advance towards simplicity and lucidity, which came fully and effectively to be realized by such writers as addition and sweet after to close in the 17th century. Now my classmate, Jamie.
Hello, I will continue with the writers of the age of Milton. The first, John Milton. He was the most important poet of this age. You can see that this age has his name. So John Milton, born on December 9, 1608, and died on November 8, 1674. He was an English poet, polemicist, man of letters, and a civil servant for the Commonwealth of England under the Oliver Cromwell. He wrote at a time of religious flux and political upheaval, and is best known for his epic poem, Paradise Lost, in 1667, written in blank verse. Milton's poetry and prose reflect deep personal convictions, a passion for freedom and self-determination, and the urgent issues and political turbulence of his day. Writing in English, Latin, Greek, and Italian, he achieved international renown within his lifetime, and his celebrated Aeropolitica in 1644, written in condemnation of pre-publication censorship, is among history's most influential and impassioned defenses of free speech and freedom of the press. And William Haley's 1796 biography called him the greatest English author, and he remains generally regarded as one of the most prominent writers in the English language. Through critical reception has oscillated in the centuries since his death, often on account of republicanism. And Milton's poetry was slow to see the light of the day, at least under his name. His first published poem was on Shakespeare, 1630, anonymously included in the second folio edition of William Shakespeare. In the midst of the excitement attending the possibility of establishing a new English government, Milton collected his work in 1645 poems, and the anonymous edition of Comus was published in 1637, and the publication of Clarisas in 1638 in Justo Eduardo King Naufrago was signed Just J.M. And otherwise, the 1645 collection was the only poetry of his to see print. All in Paradise Lost appeared in 1667. And now the second writer, who is John Dryden. He was an English poet, critic, and playwright, active in the second half of the 17th century. Over the span of nearly 40 years, he dabbled in a wide range of genres to great success and acclaim. And he, as a poet, Dryden is best known as a satirist, and was in England first poet laureate in 1668. In addition to satires, Dryden wrote elegies, prologues, epilogues, odes, and panegyrics. And his most famous poem is Absalom and Achitophel, 1681. Dryden was so influential in Restoration England, and that the period was known to many as the Age of Dryden. He born at the vicarage of Northamptonshire, in 1631. Dryden was the son of the parliamentary supporters, but exhibited royalist sympathies early. His poem Upon the Death of Lord Hastings supports a royalist agenda. And 3 years after graduating from Trinity College, Cambridge, he moved to London and wrote his heroic stanzas in 1659. After writing the poem Annus Mirabilis in 1667, Dryden was named Poet Laureate of England. And Dryden wrote plays throughout the 1670s and was at the forefront of Restoration comedy. His best-known plays were Marriage à la Mode in 1673 and All for Love in 1678. However, his plays were never as successful as his poetry, and he eventually turned back to satires. In the satires that he wrote, Dryden often took aim to the Whigs, and which earned him attention from Charles II. In the 1680s, Dryden converted to Catholicism and set to work criticizing the Anglican Church, which ultimately lost him the position of Poet Laureate. And at the end of his career, Dryden returned to theatrical writing and also took up translation. He died in 17 and from Wood. And now the literary characteristics of the age of Milton. The first one is the influence of Puritanism. The influence of Puritanism upon English life and literature was profound. The spirit which it introduced was fine and noble, but it was hard and stern. Puritanism created confusion in literature, and soberness and pensiveness pervaded the poetry of this period. The second one, want of vitality and concreteness. The literature of this Milton period lacks of concreteness and vitality. The third one, want of the spirit of unity. During this period, James I and Charles II were hostile and to the interest of the people, and the country was divided by the struggle for political and religious liberty. And the literature was as divided in spirit as were the struggling parties. The four, dominance of critical and intellectual spirit, and the last one, the decadence of drama. This period is notable for the decline of drama, civil unrest, and strong opposition from the Puritans was the main cause of the drama collapse. The actual dramatic work of the period was small and unimportant, and the closing of the theaters in 1642 gave a final shock to the development of the drama. So that was all for our presentation. Thanks for paying attention, sorry, and blessings.